Hey guys, this is Cam15 and I am back at it with another video for you guys, and we are back with some more Supergirl episode or season 6 episode reviews, in which was a pretty interesting episode. Now obviously where we last left off, Lex Luthor gets arrested. Supergirl Kara is in the freaking Phantom Zone, and now our characters in this episode are trying to find them out. Now, the episode starts off with this episode where this one guy who's raiding this Luthor building health type of clinic thing going on. He's trying to do something, but then the super team shows up and kind of stops him and stuff like that. And we find out this guy's name is Silas, who's an alien from the planet called Transylvania, which I'm like, really? Because he's a vampire. Hotel Transylvania. All right, fine. So yeah, we also find out that, we find out that he had his husband, was in the Phantom Zone, and essentially he managed to open a portal to try to get him out. But the only problem is it was kind of a lost cause because the Phantoms and everything. And essentially, John and the others are going to try to use Silas to help them try to find Kara. Anyways, speaking of Kara, she ends up in the Phantom Zone, and you can see the Phantoms eventually taking over her mind and giving her all the nightmares and the fears and stuff like that. And it's freaking crazy too, like some trippy shit going on and stuff like that. And then we later see Kara get saved by this mysterious person, who we only later find out that it is her dad. I'm gonna go split over into those different storylines. The Kara storyline, it's an ongoing storyline, but that was kind of a smaller storyline, to be honest, in this episode. And the thing is, Kara's trying to instill the hook. First, Kara tells everything to her dad about Argo, the fact that that's still A-okay and that's safe, and your efforts were in vain and stuff like that. So, essentially Kara's trying to inspire her dad to find a way to get out of the Phantom Zone. But her dad's like, listen, you can't get out of here as much as you want to. You can't. It's just utterly hopeless. But Kara tries, she fails, and then essentially they have a talk, and then Kara's like, look, I don't care if it takes me an inch every time. I'm going to find a way to get out of the Phantom Zone. Essentially, her dad's like, don't worry, I'll help you. I'll talk about the ending scene when I get to there. Now, the other storyline in this episode, alongside that story, the Kara storyline, and then what the super team's doing, is the Lex Luthor trial scene. And essentially, we see Lillian Luthor go in to talk with Lex, and she's like, listen, just give it up, Lex, honey. The name's tarnished. I don't want you to tarnish the name. You have no chance of winning this trial and stuff like that. Just bite the bullet, freaking stay in prison, and you'll get out and you can go back doing what you were doing. And essentially Lux is like, no, mother. I've been in prison before, and I'm not going through that shit again. And I'm like, this man does not want to give up, does he? Again, like I will always say this. John Cryer, he does a phenomenal job. He was phenomenal at Lex Luthor this episode, man. He was phenomenal. I love Lex Luthor, John Cryer's interpretation of Lex Luthor and stuff like that. Now, Lillian's like, what are you going to do to get out of prison? You can't do something illegally. And essentially, Lex is like, oh, don't worry. I'll do this legally. So, yeah. Anyways, what happens is, next going on in that storyline, Andrea and Lena have a talk. And Andrea is essentially goading Lena to go talk or go testify as a way to get like a story for the Catco. And Lena's like, I'm not doing that for your story and stuff like that. Now we later see that she ends up going and stuff like that. And yeah, now we do get the first trial scene where we see Eve Tessmacher essentially, testify against Lex Luthor and everything. And essentially, lo and behold, it's looking like things are working in her favor and stuff like that. But that's when Lex kind of plays the card, and essentially she plays Eve to make it look like, oh, she was really the bad guy. She was the one doing this, not me, and stuff like that. She did this because she followed some blind love for me. she had, and essentially flips the whole conversation around to where you got the jurors now starting to side with Lex Luthor. And I'm like, you motherfuckers can't be this stupid. But okay, yeah, he manages to win the, jurors, I guess, sympathy, and it only gets fucking worse by the time you get to the end of the episode. Now, the whole thing going back to the super team storyline is you see Ms. Martian trying to cool down John because John kind of gets upset at Silas for not having the device fixed. And Ms. Martian's like, listen, John, I understand where you're coming from, but you got to take your time, one step at a time. Relax, give it its time, and stuff like that. And, John's like, no, Kara's like a daughter to me and I can't lose her. I'm not going to do this like I lost my family. So obviously, him and Alice are getting very testy with that whole stuff and everything. So, yeah. Now, we see Lillian show up to Lena's house, and essentially Lillian's like, listen, like, just let this go. If your brother goes out, leave your brother alone. Like, I'll give you some of my shares. And essentially Lena's like, you're trying to bribe me. And essentially, Lillian's trying to say, look, do not testify against your brother. You're only going to make the Luthor name worse, And guess what? When they see what he truly did is wrong, guess what? They're going to look at you and they're going to be like, well, guess what? You're no better than your brother. And essentially Lena's like, look, I do not give an F. I'm going to what's his face? Testify against my brother because he needs to go to prison for the right justifications and stuff like that. And I'm just gonna say this: Katie McGrath, I think that's the actress name of Lena. If I get that wrong, please correct me in the comment section. Let me just say that. Oh my God, she looked. Oh my God, she was beautiful in this episode. She looked hot. Trust me. I really like her interpretation of Lena, but my God, she was stunning this episode. I was like, oh, Lena, don't do this to me. You're looking like a whole snack today in this episode. So yeah, I really do wish her and James were still together. Anyways, James is doing Mortal Kombat. Yeah, so that's the whole thing there. Another thing is Dreamer's also training to try to train to combat the Phantom Zone, and it doesn't work successfully the first time, but Brainy gives a nice speech about how Kara instills faith in all of them to live up to the name of being heroes and stuff like that. And I really did like that scene. Very great scene by Brainy to say that. Very much enjoyed that scene. So yeah. So what happens next, going back to the whole Lex testifying scene, is Lena goes because it looks like, oh, is anybody else going to testify? And that's when Lena shows up. She's like, I'm going to testify. So Lena testifies, and she gets all the details out. She explains it all in detail, but then Lex is like, you motherfucker, I'm not letting you do this. And essentially, you just have these two going at it and stuff like that. And I'm like, dog, this is getting a heated scene. And by the end, it's making, Lena kind of ends off a point where it makes it where Lex doesn't end up like the good guy. And they pan over to the jurors after Lex gives his speech, saying after all he said, and the jurors don't look like, this guy looks like he's not doing good and everything. He's very sus right now. And it's like, okay, good. Lex is going to be convicted of his crimes. He's going to jail. It's over. And by the end of the episode, you would think, oh, guess what? He's gonna get out of jail. Or he's gonna go to jail. That dude gets pardoned, essentially. And he's like, oh, nope, you're not going to jail. We convict Lex Luthor not guilty because he was able to get the jurors. And it's funny too, he had his little sidekick in the freaking, in the courtroom, disguised as a, police officer, and he was willing to do the whole bomb, get out of there with a bomb. But to the dismay, the juror said, we convict Lex Luthor not guilty, and Lex is like, oh, I'll take it. So Lex Luthor has gone free. They focus on William a lot in this episode in terms of his, I guess, his thoughts on the trial, and he's obviously rightfully so pissed. As well as Andrea and stuff like that, and even Lena as well. So essentially, Lex meets up with his mom again, and essentially they're just talking about how he got out and everything. We find out at the end of the episode, or what we find out when it comes to the super team. The super team, they open the portal to the Phantom Zone, but then Brainy realizes that something's not right, and he sees that that's not the Phantom Zone in the simulation. That's not what it all looks like. And essentially, we find out because of Crisis, essentially it made the Phantom Zone split into different like islands, like an archipelago essentially. And because of it, it's gonna make finding Kara so much more harder than it was before. Lo and behold, they take too long. You have some phantoms freaking fly in through the portal and they start attacking them. One of the phantoms get into Silas's body. I'll talk about that at the end of the episode too. So what happens up there next is eventually you have the super team going up against the phantoms and stuff like that. Eventually what happens is it's a race to get the Phantom Zone portal opened up again. Eventually Silas does that. And by just obviously typically just, what's the best thing to do to make a broken device, fix? Hit it so many damn times, and then guess what? It will work. So it ends up opening. They force the Phantoms back into the portal, and that's kind of where the super team story ends there. And that's when kind of the main plot lines interconnect. And then, the team sees, well, if that's bad enough about the Kara situation, it's not going to get any better because Lex is free, and stuff like that. So that whole thing's going on. Alex is very depressed about the Kara situation. I'm guessing Kelly now knows about Kara because it seems like, because Alex says it sucks because Kara's gone, and it's like, wait, she told Kelly already that Kara's Supergirl? I don't remember that happening. If that happened already, please remind me in the comment section. So that happened there. So she's obviously distraught about that. Brainy's pissed off because obviously he got fooled by Lex Luthor, and it's like, this should never would have happened if I just listened to this guy. Eventually John, he's kind of more cooled down. He kind of tells Mitch Martin, like, I understand where you're coming from, but we're gonna do whatever we can to get Kara out of there and stuff like that. Now, in terms of Silas's ending storyline, we see that one of the phantoms came into his mouth, comes out of his mouth, and it looks like he's attacking Silas. In terms of the Lena storyline, and stuff like that, in terms of that, where that happens, her and Andrea meet up with each other, they have a drink, and essentially, we find out that Lex is more than likely going to press charges on Lena for essentially, doing what she did in some results of the last season. Just like, oh shit, great, that's just great. But Lena's like, it don't matter, he can bring it on. I'm not willing to back down. I'm not gonna give into him. I'm gonna fight him. Which, again, it's pretty cool to see that, again, for the longest time, we know Lena Luthor was the good Luthor, and she's willing to do anything to stop her brother. So yeah, and yeah, now, and Kara, the way the episode ends is Kara and her dad are trying to find a way out of the Phantom Zone, as well as avoid the Phantoms at the same time, but they see some Phantoms going through this portal and stuff like that. And eventually, they see that could be a way to get out of the Phantom Zone by, like they said at the end of the episode, we're going to catch a Phantom. So that's where the episode ends up. I thought the episode was pretty, good. Very much keeps the storyline part. My favorite thing in this episode was the Lex trial. Like, again, this man, John Cryer, portrays a really good freaking Lex Luthor. And I did like the Lex Lena, scene. Katie and John Cryer did a great job on that scene. They definitely were into it, and yeah. But other than that, that's all I gotta say. So if you guys like the video, leave a like, put in the comment section your thoughts on this week's episode of Supergirl, as well as hit that subscribe button to get more Supergirl content, as well as any of the other DC TV shows going forward. Anyways, guys, I'm MacGyver. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night when you're trying this video, and hopefully you guys are staying safe out there. Till then, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.